Former White House aide under Donald Trump, Cassidy Hutchinson, appeared on Jen Psaki's show on MSNBC and had some words for her former boss, Donald Trump, and for Republicans in Congress. And so I want to play a couple of these clips for you. I'll respond to them, but this is indicative of a broader phenomenon we've been talking a lot about, which is that people who worked the most closely with Donald Trump while he was president, so many of them are now saying, please don't let him anywhere close to the White House. Here's Cassidy Hutchinson.
Mentioned Trump, a number of his allies have attacked you personally. I mean, as I just said, Trump posted, will she be prosecuted for what she did and said? What is your response to that?
You know, Jen, I had been part of the Trump administration for several years, and I know when he starts to get nervous. I know that Donald Trump has to be nervous, if not extremely frightened right now, because what is happening is he is deploying his most loyal allies on Capitol Hill to try to discredit not only my testimony, but the entire January 6th investigation as a whole. The facts are out there, and he doesn't want the facts out there because he doesn't want the American people to know what actually happened. He's hoping that his false narrative of what happened on January 6th is what the American people will believe heading up to the November election. And it's really imperative that we keep speaking about the truth because the facts are the facts. And Donald Trump has tried to smear those with his deceit and his lies. Now, what I will say to that too, though, is when you mentioned the report, much of my testimony is corroborated, but there also is one key piece, and that's the fact that he knew that there were weapons in the crowd. His Secret Service agents testified that he was aware that that's why they were not coming through the magnetometers. That's a key piece of evidence for the American people to know, and for the jury, hopefully, that will convene before the election, because it speaks to his state of mind. And it also is reported that only 1 hour after he got back from the ellipse, he called Kevin McCarthy and said that it was Antifa attacking the Capitol. But he also said that they were his people. So, you know, all this being said, Jen, Donald Trump lashes out when he feels threatened, and he's lashing out right now because he does not want the American people to know that he was responsible for the single most egregious attack on our democracy.
And that is it right there. And I do think he is getting nervous and desperate. How could he not? My goodness, 4 criminal trials coming up, the fraud judgment he can't pay, and so many different things. Biden's poll numbers surging. Now he's leading in recent polls. And I think somewhere deep down, I know Trump is just the narcissist of all narcissists, and he has a hard time ever doing any introspection probably. But somewhere deep down, he has to know when he's called a threat to democracy, that's hitting the nail on the head. And he knows that if people like Cassidy Hutchinson are out there explaining what they saw, what they observed, that is going to hurt him a lot. Because as she said, he is responsible for this egregious attack on our democracy. Yes, January 6th itself, but everything that led up to it as well. What prosecutors have deemed to be an illegal scheme to subvert the will of the people through fake electors, through pressuring local officials to do things that would have disenfranchised their state voters. And by trying to prevent Biden from taking over as president, because he won the election, that's how democracy works, and instead just installing himself as an unelected president for more time. And that is something that if people fully understood, Trump would have no shot, which is why I pound on that drum so dang often. Because I think, this is going to sound cheesy, but I do believe in a general sense in the American people. If we elected Trump once, so, but I do believe that most people want a functioning democracy. Now, I think there's a scary portion of the country who doesn't, but I think most Americans want that. Enough Americans to defeat Trump want that. But I think there's enough Americans who don't understand what's at stake. And so either they'll stay home, they'll vote third party, or they'll vote for Donald Trump. And that is something that keeps me up at night. And And so it's why I think we need to inform people, and people like Cassidy Hutchinson being out there and just making sure people understand, as someone who observed it herself, this man is dangerous. Now, it's not just her, as we've gone through so many times in the past, who's warning about the danger of Trump, or who has some unfortunate words for Trump to say. And just to remind you, a few of the people, Biden-Harris HQ on X put together a portion of the list of former Trump administration officials and what they've had to say about Trump since. Trump is a consummate narcissist who constantly engages in reckless conduct. He will always put his own interests and gratifying his own ego ahead of everything else, including the country's interests. This is Bill Barr, horrible attorney general in service of Trump. He was horrible for Trump, loyal to him. Willing to say this now. You have former National Security Advisor John Bolton, having been in the room with them. Dictators think Trump is a laughing fool, and they're prepared to take advantage of him. Trump's former Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao, she resigned because January 6th troubled her. You have Trump's former Defense Secretary Mark Esper saying Trump threatens our democracy. You have Trump's former Director of Strategic Communications, Alyssa Farrah Griffin. We worked with him. We knew him. And we're telling you, America, this man is unfit to be president. You have Stephanie Grisham. I'm terrified of Trump running for president in 2024. I don't think he's fit for the job. Nikki Haley, of course, saying that Trump puts our allies and military in danger. You have Trump's former White House Chief of Staff, John Kelly. Trump has no idea what America stands for. And by the way, Kelly, as it points out, confirmed that Trump called American service members suckers and losers and didn't want to be seen with amputee veterans because it doesn't look good for him. You have another former defense secretary. Never did I dream that troops would be ordered under any circumstance to violate the constitutional rights of their fellow citizens, much less to provide a bizarre photo op for the elected commander-in-chief Donald Trump. This is when he did the upside down Bible thing. Trump's former National Security Advisor, H.R. McMaster. The foremost reason for the assault on the Capitol was Trump's sustained disinformation and unfounded conspiracy theories. We saw the absence of leadership, and just goes on and on and on. People who were in the room with him for the most important decision-making moments and saw his leadership or lack thereof are saying, do not vote for him. Do not support him. He threatens our democracy or our allies or the stability of our country, our Constitution. Just believe them. All these people who have no reason, there's no interest for them in lying about him, but they're telling the truth to you all, to warn you based on what they saw. Here's another moment from Cassidy Hutchinson.
And history is going to look poorly upon these people who have spouted the conspiracy theories and lies in the ways that Jim Jordan has. But it's not just Jim Jordan. The entire House Republican Conference right now is a complete disgrace, not only to the Republican Party, but to Americans. As important as it is to make sure that Donald Trump never gets near the Oval Office again, we also need to focus on Congress and to make sure that everybody in Congress who has been an enabler of Donald Trump, people like Jim Jordan, people like Elise Stefanik and Nancy Mace, who have devoted their careers in this part of American history to becoming loyal foot soldiers of Donald Trump. They are lying to their constituents, and they do not deserve to serve in that body.
And it's such an important point. I told you a day ago or 2 days ago about a goal of mine going into November, which is focusing on, in addition to the White House, other really important races, Senate races, House races, because the existential nature of the presidential race will justifiably get a bunch of our attention. We can't allow that to make us forget, though, about these other really important races. And if we want to not just avoid a crisis and this threat to our democracy, but do that plus enable future progress, then we have to focus on other things like the Senate. And last time around, I told you about the Wisconsin Senate race, Tammy Baldwin, critical race. And to see progress enabled, we need to see majorities in the House and Senate. Just remember, first 2 years of Biden's presidency, historic policy achievement after historic policy achievement. Then Republicans got a majority in the House, brought a lot of that to a screeching halt. And can you imagine if Republicans got a majority in the Senate as well? Oh no. So today's important race that I want to point out to all of you is Senator Jackie Rosen out of Nevada. And the last Senate race in Nevada, just to refresh your memory, was Senator Catherine Cortez Masto defending her seat. And she won by less than 8,000 votes. So that's how close it can be in Nevada. And that's how important this is in terms of focusing on it and supporting. So as I said with the Tammy Baldwin race and campaign, if you can support, please do. I'll put the link to donate in my description. This will be something I'm doing going into November, and we're working on something for the presidential fundraising wise that will be pretty epic. But here, Jackie Rosen, link in the description. And as I told you with Tammy Baldwin, with these Senate races, we're talking about Medicare and Social Security being on the ballot. We're talking about reproductive freedoms being on the ballot. And within the context of that, Jackie Rosen is another leading sponsor of the Women's Health Protection Act, as is Tammy Baldwin, and so leaders on fighting for reproductive freedoms. And we could see Roe v. Wade codified into federal law if we had a Democratic majority in the Senate next go round. So again, support if you can, super important, and I'll leave that there. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel.